Hello again, and welcome to another episode of the Comfortable Couch Podcast Show, which is available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify. My name is Mark Underwood. I am a licensed psychotherapist, and I specialize in cognitive behavioral therapy. So for the last 15 years, I've centered on treating anxiety and depression. If you've listened before, I always intro by saying the two reasons that people come to my office are always, I don't like the things that are going on in my head. I don't like the way I'm thinking or feeling, or I don't like my relationships. And it's circular, because if you're having relationship problems, you're usually having anxiety and depressive symptoms. And if you're anxious and depressed, I'm betting you're having relationship problems. So the two kind of wind together. But today I'm isolating anxiety. People have asked me to talk about it. It seems to be a subject that the average person struggles to get a grasp on. And I haven't seen a lot of common sense approaches to explaining it. So I'm going to try to go, because that's what I do in this podcast, is I try to reduce things to a common sense level and understanding. An experiential understanding is what I'm aiming for here. So if you're looking for a physiological explanation, or there's a textbook waiting for you somewhere with that, but you're not getting that here today. I'm going to try to explain what I've seen are the three kinds of anxiety that people have and what you should do with each of them. So the first not so amigo of anxiety, I call seeing through the windshield. And this is a normal kind of anxiety that all of us should have. It's sort of like a built-in app on your phone. There's apps you can get rid of. People delete Facebook all the time. They go through a break. I'm deleting Facebook. Social media is wearing me out. Well, try and delete Google Meet from your phone. It won't. You can disable it, but it didn't go anywhere. It's built in. And this kind of anxiety is built in. It's a built-in warning system. Let me go into more explanation here. When you're looking at life with your perceptions, with your eyes, you're living behind your eyes, and you're looking out at the world, you're going to see things that you are welcoming, and you're going to see things that are not so welcoming. You're going to have a perception of things upcoming on the road ahead of you that are potential threats and can harm you. Now, that could be physical. You could see a physical threat. You could be driving down the road and see a funnel cloud turn into a tornado and say, I better turn around and head back home, find a basement. But when I say looking for the windshield, I mean metaphorically. You could perceive for all kinds of potential threats. It could be job-related, relationship-related, personal resources, weather, physical health, family, anything. It could be anything. You could say, well, an example of this would be, I'm hearing rumors through work that the company is up for sale, that the owner is putting the company up for sale, and now I have anxiety because I don't know whether my job is going to be safe if the company's sold. It could be I have anxiety in a relationship because my husband has turned off his locator at various points when he's out of town on business, or my fiance is hiding her phone from me, and she occasionally says, I'll have to call you back later, and I'm wondering if she's cheating or he's cheating. Or I have anxiety because I'm having financial problems. I'm afraid I'm going to get I may have a doctor bill, or I may not be a bill, and maybe I have a sense that there's something wrong. I can sense I've done something. I've got my heart palpitations or something, or I've got a lump, physical. I could be really sick, or I've got a test coming up that I'm really worried about. I might not pass it. It's a critical class. Whatever it is. Everyone has this level of anxiety. It's built in. It's your built-in warning system that tells you if something could harm you that's coming up on the horizon. I like it. I use the analogy that it's a smoke alarm. Most houses have smoke alarms. It's there to give you, a smoke alarm does not detect fire, it detects smoke. And so when that smoke alarm goes off, it's warning you of a general danger. Because a smoke alarm cannot tell you whether it's a raging fire and you should climb out on your roof and jump down to the ground and run for your life and wait for the fire department to come put out what's left of your house, or if you should go and find the fire and put it out with the extinguisher you've got in the garage, or whether it's somebody's burnt the roast and your house is filled up with smoke and you need to open the patio sliding doors and open the kitchen windows and turn the exhaust fan on. Or you've just got a little smoke from, somebody burnt a toast. Or maybe the alarm's just not functioning right. Now, the problem comes when people are not aware of how to manage their smoke alarm. And either they don't know how to interpret what they see, then they follow up, or they immediately assume that it's a fire, or they immediately assume that it's nothing. Because you can amplify a smoke alarm, your reaction to a smoke alarm, or you can minimize it. Some people have that, their tuning ramped up way up so that every small anxious impulse is a raging forest fire in their living room. And I get this sometimes. People call me and they'll say, I'm going to be late for my appointment. No, and they're just panicked. They're having a panic attack. I'm like, you're going to be 10 minutes late. We'll get over this. Believe me, this is a low key. Well, they don't know that. They've never learned a reality test and follow up with when the alarm goes off. Other people have shut their alarm off, or they've desensitized themselves to it, and they put themselves in incredibly risky positions. This is somebody who, I had a client who's found out they had a program on their phone that told them, it tracked the speed of their car. It was like a GPS. They had an expensive car, and their 20-something-year-old son cranked it out on the causeway and had it up to 153. And it sent a message to us, well, you drive 153 on the causeway at 2 a.m, you've shut your alarm off. You hit a deer, you're dead. You pop a tire, you're flipping end over end. It's not clearly you're taking risks. The guy who goes to the bar on the bad side of town and flashes a big gigantic handful of $100 bills is turning his alarm off, because the average person would say, that's not a good idea. You're going to end up in an alley getting whacked over the head with a bat. Or the gal who goes home, goes off with a couple guys who go hang out at their house and play cards and 2 a.m. and assumes that there's no bad intentions. I've turned off my alarm. Of course, nobody's going to harm me. I'm good. The best example of this, shutting the alarm off, I saw a YouTube video where a guy was, he had decided he was a stunt man, and he said, well, I'm going to hang underneath my buddy's Cessna airplane, and I'm going to hold on to the axle, and I'm going to wear this belt, and it's got a metal, like a U-joint, like a hook, and I'm hooked to the bottom of the plane with this other joint that's welded on the bottom of the plane. Notice I said 1. So he gets up 1,000, 1,500 feet, and the hook breaks, the eye bolt breaks, and he's hanging by his hands from the axle. Well, he's only going to be able to hang on for about 10 seconds, and he fell to his death because he filmed it. And I was watching this, not to be morbid, but I'm going, the average person would go, what? I need about 10. I need about 10 of those eye bolt things holding me to the bottom of the plane. And I probably need a parachute in case they break, because that would, and then I probably wonder, why am I doing this again? Why am I putting myself in this much risk? That would be a normal way of managing your smoke alarm, right? So this is a natural response to perceived threat, and the volume can be turned up way high or the volume can be turned down way down low. But this is something that's manageable. And when people come to me and are having problems with it, well, we reality test. We learn how to manage it. We learn how to follow up on what the smoke alarm says and to tell the difference between big fire, little fire, big smoke, little smoke, false alarm, no smoke. And then that's how you manage anxiety, basic anxiety, right? It's a cognitive behavioral reality testing. Practice makes perfect. Perfect. You're always going to struggle. It's hard to manage. I mean, nothing's ever perfect, but this is normal. If you have number one, there's nothing wrong with you. It's just the way it is. Everybody should have number one. It's a matter of how well you manage it. The second not so amigo of anxiety is what I call the other shoe is getting ready to drop. And this is the idea, the belief that, well, it's just a matter of time before something negative is going to happen to me and do some kind of damage or pain or discomfort to me. And it's going to happen, you know, it's either bad things happen to me because there's something especially wrong with me. And I'm kind of like that Schleprock character from the Flintstones cartoon. Woe is me. Bad things happen to me. Bad things happen to me. Doesn't happen to other people maybe, but bad things happen to me. So I'm always waiting for the ceiling to fall in on me. Right? It's not a matter of, well, I'm waiting for something good to happen and then something bad to happen and then something good. No, I'm just sitting here fixated on the next bad thing that's bound to happen. And it could be because you believe that something is foundationally wrong with you, and probably you didn't imagine that. You probably have had some bad things happen to you. Or it could be that you just assume that that's the way the world works, that more bad things than good happen. And, you know, you're always looking out for the next bad thing to happen because that's just life. Happens to everybody. It's not me being singled out by the universe. It's the way the world works. Right? It's a negative view of life, and you end up being left in kind of a hopeless state, helpless, because you know it's coming. There's nothing you can do about it. You don't know when it's going to happen. You don't know why it's going to happen. You're just sitting in your lazy boy recliner at home trying to watch TV, and you're looking up the ceiling going, I know it's coming. The ceiling's going to fall in on me. So this comes from depression. This is an anxiety that is generated by an excessively negative view of your life or of life itself. Now, some people I have known, and it's in my book, Toxic Words, 20 Things You Should Never Say to Yourself. One of them is, I'm just going to expect the worst so I'll never be disappointed. Well, this is what sounds like a logical, on a superficial glance, well, I'll just protect myself from disappointment if I assume I'm going to lose. Well, I won't be disappointed when I lose. And if I win, why, that'll be great. Well, it doesn't work out that way. Because what ends up happening is the person that says, well, I'm going to expect the worst, and that way I'll be disappointed, they don't wait objectively to see what's going to happen, though they're expecting the worst. So they're always in anxious distress. They're fixated on the ceiling. They're staring up at the ceiling and saying, all right, it's 10:30. Is it falling yet? No. 10:45? No, it's coming though. It's coming. They're not enjoying anything in life because they can't. They've told themselves, if I enjoy something, then I can be hurt. I can be disappointed. I get this a lot with relationships. People will do this. They'll say, well, I just assume that my relationship's going to go south. But that way I'm not disappointed. I won't get hurt as much. No, you're going to hurt all the time. And you're not going to feel anything good. You're never going to go, I had a great run. I had a great 2 years seeing him or her, and we had a great time. It just didn't work out. But I had a lot of great memories. No, you're not going to do that. you're going to spend those 2 years in misery and anxiety and stress and tension waiting for that thing to happen. And you may actually provoke it to happen by expecting it to happen. So this is I had a guy, this is my story. I had a guy who was always negative. He was negative to the core. I mean, there was no filling. It was straight. He was straight negative. There was no outer core, inner core. It was all the same. And I teased him one day. I said, you're the most negative person. I was playing with him a little bit. He was a good guy. And I said, you're the kind of guy that if you won the Powerball tomorrow and got $6 million, you'd find a way to make it negative. And he cut me off like it negative and said, you're right, Mark. I would. Because I know that a week after I won the Powerball, I'd get $7 million in bills coming in the mail. He goes, you can't win. I can't win. I'd lose. And I'm thinking, wow, this is a distorted. Now, you and I both know if you won $6 million Powerball, you'd have some problems. You'd have some relatives showing up that you didn't want to talk to. They're, hey, I need you to pay. I need to redo my garage. Can I borrow some? My car broke down. You'd get people hounding you. You'd have to hire an accountant. You'd have to change your taxes. There'd be some inconveniences. But let me tell you, if I hit $6 million in the Powerball, it's not going to be a bad thing. I can think of some philanthropic things to do. I'm going to buy a house somewhere that's probably above my normal what I would buy already. And I'm going to buy myself a Superbird. If you don't know what a Superbird is, and it's a classic car. I'm going to do some good things with that money. I'm going to have fun with it. We're going to go on vacation. We're going to make life easier. Yes, there are going to be complications. No. The person that says the other shoe's ready to drop will always find a way to make everything negative. It's their way of looking at life, and it's depression. And it has to be treated as depression in therapy by a cognitive behavioral therapist. Otherwise, you live in a sense of, anxiety is hopelessness and helplessness. You're like the boat that's captured in the ocean and the water being tossed and turned everywhere, and you have no ability to steer it. Now, that second form is depression. The third not so amigo of anxiety is what I call the empty backpack anxiety. And what it is it could be a conscious, but usually it's unconscious sense that you're missing something that you need to succeed in life or some area of life, and you don't have it. You're unprepared for this thing, this big portion of life that you have to go through. Okay, so let me play with this. The two diagnoses that I give for anxiety would be a generalized anxiety disorder, GAD, which is for people that they don't really know why they're anxious. They're anxious about everything. It's undifferentiated. They don't know why they're anxious. They're always on the verge of a panic attack. And then the second is called an adjustment disorder with anxiety or anxious distress and depressive symptoms, whichever one. And that's for when you know why you're anxious. Your mother's sick and she may die, and you know what's going to be like to live without mom. Or, my business is failing. Or my husband is filing for divorce. You know why. But the first is you don't know why. The generalized anxiety disorder, those people come in usually don't know why they're anxious. They're not sure. It's sort of all over the place. What I find is most of the time the generalized anxiety people have number 3. There's some lapse in their skills that they need to succeed in life. For instance, it could be most people have this, it's a relationship thing. They don't know how to set boundaries for other people. They're very codependent and believe that everything they do is hurting someone else. That they have this exaggerated sense that when they tell somebody, no, I cannot help you move and clean out your garage because I'm taking care of my sick uncle, that other person will be devastated that they didn't come over and help with the garage. Even though if they asked the other person to come help and they said no, they wouldn't be devastated. They assume the other person will be devastated. And so they have this anxiety about having friends and interacting with people socially because they don't know how to set boundaries. They don't know how to say no. They give too much and then they feel exploited and then they get depressed and they cry and they go, why do people treat me this way? And they say, I just don't know how to manage relationships. Could be romantic relationships. That's the number 2 that I get a lot of. Hey, I don't understand the opposite sex. I don't understand, or I don't know how to act with a man or a woman. I give too much. I misread. I'm vulnerable. My episode, The Giving Tree. A lot of people have number 3 anxiety that are giving tree. Now, they may know it. They may not know it. They may have some insight. They may not have insight. Well, they give too much. People abuse them and use them. They attract the wrong kind of people. I get this a lot. I had working with a gal, and she said, Mark, I've always attracted the wrong guy since my divorce. I don't know how to attract the right guy. Well, and I don't know how to tell the difference. Well, this is a skill that's missing. My daughter once, probably 6 or 7 years ago, was having anxiety because the kids are starting to pick on each other, 11-year-olds, 10, 11-year-olds. They're starting to verbally spar back and forth, and she didn't know how to do it. Well, so I have anxiety about going to school because I don't know. People are going to say something to me, and what do I say? But this empty backpack the solution is skill building. It's like, okay, well, let's sit down and talk about what dating is and what your expectations should be and how do you protect yourself and how do you decide the difference between a good gal and a bad gal, a good guy and a bad guy. I talk about this in my last episode, understanding men, 1, 2s, and 3s, because women are probably 70% of my clients. And they're always like, how do I understand men? Yeah. Men don't fool other men. Men fool women. Yeah. Women don't fool other women. They fool men. I've been fooled. So it's an educational thing. So when someone comes in to my office and says, I have this general anxiety, usually we can find that there's some sort of mission in life that they're not prepared for. It could be the opposite sex. It could be dealing with their parents. I don't know how to tell I feel like I have to honor thy father and mother no matter how they treat me. Well, great. Then that's the way an 8-year-old would think. You're 38. Your mother's verbally abusive and controlling. Why are you putting up with it? Well, I don't know how to stand up to her. Oh, well, now we've identified the empty backpack. It's the journey of standing up to your mother and setting boundaries for her. So this third thing is treatable by skill building. The therapist should be able to help and say, hey, or you can independently research if you can, but it's hard to sit and teach yourself, boundaries or negotiating relationships. But the third thing is it's not depression. It's actually a pretty smart awareness that something's missing, that you need something. So when people have number 3 anxiety, I'd say, look, that's kind of a good thing. You're self-assessing, you're self-understanding, you're figuring out what you're missing. So if you're afraid of physical conflict, then maybe you need to take jujitsu. If you're afraid of emotional conflict, I just had this conversation with somebody here at the base. Maybe we need some assertiveness training for people who don't know how to do the banter back and forth or feel picked on. It happens in the adult world just like it happens in middle school. So number 3 is a way of filling in the gap that's causing the anxiety, right? So here's one of the goals of this episode. Look, I'm not going to be able to, in 30 minutes, and I try to keep things under 30 minutes. I'm thinking, you don't want the song to go on too long. You want it to leave you maybe wanting a little more, and I can't give you 20 weeks worth of psychotherapy in 30 minutes, but I can tell you what I can do. And what my goal is I want to eliminate your anxiety about having anxiety, because that's something people out there, look, I am anxious because I don't understand why I'm anxious. And the fact that I can't manage my anxiety is making me incredibly anxious. And then it's making me depressed because what's wrong with me? No, you don't understand because nobody's explained it to you. When I was 25 and started out in this field, I didn't understand anxiety. I couldn't have told you jack about anxiety at 25. I'm not so sure I could have told you anything great about it at 35. I might have told you how I dealt with it. Now, I'm going to get more into specific things you can do to manage anxiety. I'm going to get in another episode. I've got a specific skill, sequential processing, that I came up with that will address how do you reduce anxiety. But for right now, I want you to lower your anxiety by understanding your anxiety. And there are 3 kinds of anxiety. And if you understand the difference between the windshield, the shoe that's ready to drop, and the empty backpack, then that will lower your anxiety because you'll say, oh, that's number 1. Okay, that's normal. I just got to manage the smoke alarm. Number 2, you're going to go, oh, I'm being depressed. I'm being negative. I'm making it all or nothing here. Like the world, oh, I've got that voice in my head that's telling me, expect the worst, never be disappointed. Or the 3rd, you'll go, you know what? I really need to figure out how to date and how I should approach men or women, or I need my parenting. I'm overwhelmed. I don't know what to do. I got to figure out some parenting skills to deal with this child that's exhausting me. I want you to know whether you've got a 1, 2, or a 3 going. And this should lower your overall anxiety because you're starting to understand anxiety, and then we can know where to go with it. So again, I want you to have less anxiety about anxiety, and we'll get into more specific techniques in the weeks to come. I'm going to be bouncing around between depression and anxiety and relationships and other things, try to mix them up, keep you interested. So I want to thank you for hanging in with me on this episode. And I hope that you now understand more about the 3 not so amigos of anxiety, and that you make some headway. Now, if you want to go to my website, you can order a copy of my book. I don't do this to make money. Essentially, my goal is to basically give therapy for free, because I can only see, well, here at the base, I can probably see 30 people a week, maybe 25. And when I private practice back home, I can see 20, 25, And there's a shortage of therapists out there, and there's certainly a shortage of qualified, experienced therapists. So if I can give you something for free, I'm good with it. It's good for you, and it's not hurting me. So, but if you want to go to my website, thecomfortablecouchshow.com, you can send me a question. You want to send me a question, a specific situational question, I'll put a mailbag show together and I'll answer it on the air. Feel free to email me then. I'll be happy to answer questions, and I won't identify you by name. I might use a pseudonym and give the city you're from. So listen, I'm grateful that you tuned in. I appreciate it. And as I usually say, until next time, keep your thoughts straight, true, and clear. This is Mark Underwood signing off for the Comfortable Couch Show. Thank you again. Bye.
Don't stop trying now, right now. Don't give up.